Okay, so this is Anguttara Nikaya. That means gradual sayings or numbered sayings. This is number 9. That means this section has 9 of everything. So they are numbered sayings. This is 936. Bhikkhus, I say that the destruction of the taints that we discussed yesterday occurs in dependence on the first jhana. I say that the destruction of the taints also occurs in dependence on the second jhana. I say that the destruction of the taints also occurs in dependence on the third jhana. I say that the destruction of the taints also occurs in dependence on the fourth jhana. I say that the destruction of the taints also occurs in dependence on the base of the infinity of space. I say that the destruction of the taints also occurs in dependence on the base of the infinity of consciousness. I say that the destruction of the taints also occurs in dependence on the base of nothingness. I say that the destruction of the taints also occurs in dependence on the destruction of the dependence on the base of neither perception nor non-perception. I say, who's saying that? Buddha. I say that the destruction of the taints also occurs in dependence on the cessation of perception and feeling. When it was said, because I say that the destruction of the taints occurs in dependence on the first jhana, for what reason was it said? Here he is secluded, so I need to go to this one. Quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a bhikkhu enters upon and abides in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied and sustained thought. With rapture and pleasure born of seclusion, he makes, so take a note of that, rapture and pleasure born of seclusion, and previously applied and sustained thought. We will come to it. This is what you do. He makes the rapture and pleasure born of seclusion drench, steep, fill, and pervade this body. See, you are supposed to welcome it. Make more of it. Fill your body with it, so that there is no part of this whole body unpervaded by the rapture and pleasure born of seclusion. Just as a skilled bathman or a bathman's apprentice heaps bath powder in a metal basin and sprinkling it gradually with water, kneads it till the moisture wets his ball of bath powder, soaks it and pervades it inside and out, yet the ball itself does not ooze. So too, a bhikkhu makes the rapture and pleasure born of seclusion drench, steep, fill, and pervade this body, so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the rapture and pleasure born of seclusion. As he abides thus diligent, that part is not here. Okay, so that's the first jhana. In that first jhana, this sutta complements. He considers whatever phenomena exist there pertaining to form, feeling, perception, volitional activities, and consciousness as impermanent, suffering, an illness, a boil, a dart, misery, affliction, alien, disintegrating, empty, and non-self. That's the knowledge of Dhamma that you apply to this experience. Too much? He turns his mind away from those phenomena and directs it to the deathless element, that's the Nibbana element. Thus, this is peaceful, this is sublime, that is the stilling of all activities, cooling off, stilling of all activities, the relinquishing of all acquisitions, the destruction of craving, dispassion, cessation, and Nibbana. So these words are kind of complementing each other. Stilling of all activities, not the physical activities, basically just mental activities here, they become stilled. The relinquishing of all acquisitions, taking things personally, labeling this feeling as I, me, myself, all of that. The destruction of craving, dispassion, cessation, and Nibbana. So, these teachings are given directly to monks who are ordained with the goal of attaining Nibbana. Not necessarily for lay people who still have the intention to go back to lay life and enjoy their worldly life. So there is a clear distinction, two paths. But still, knowing this helps so that you have some true knowledge, true wisdom, and you have heard the teachings. You become a noble disciple who has heard the Dhamma. You may not have practiced it that way, but try. You have how many more days left in this retreat? 7 more days to go. So when I said take a note on applied and sustained thought, this is called vitakka and vichara. So these are both thoughts and the way you deal with them. So applied thought and sustained thought basically talk about 3 kinds of thought. In the Eightfold Path you have right thoughts. Samma sankappa, right thoughts. Sankappa means thoughts, concepts. So the first one is nekkamma sankappa, thoughts of letting go. So you apply that kind of thought here, applying the thoughts of letting go. And the second one is avyapada sankappa. Avyapada means non-anger. That means loving kindness. So you bring up non-anger, that means you bring loving kindness. So that's the kind of thought you have at that place, at that moment. And the other one is avihimsa sankappa. Avihimsa means non-harming, not being cruel to anyone. It's easy to be cruel. So not being cruel means being compassionate. See, I mentioned this to someone in the interview, that it's good to think that you suffer, I suffer, therefore we are friends. That's the connection we have with everybody. We don't need to fuel their suffering by adding our cruelty, bad words, actions that hurt that person. So in a meditative jhanic level, you actually, any moment you are experiencing compassion, any moment you are radiating loving kindness, any moment you abandon anger, you are actually you are bringing your heart closer to the first jhana. The door to that jhana swings open because of your choices, the choice that you made. That you chose to abandon anger by choosing loving kindness. You chose to cultivate compassion and radiate compassion by giving up cruelty, harming, wanting to harm somebody. You see, sometimes we get those thoughts, we live in a worldly life where we want to kill somebody or we want something bad to happen to them. That's the normal, ordinary, worldly thinking. That is ignoble, not the kind of thinking that makes you a noble person. It's about the thinking and what you train, the train of thoughts. And then thoughts of letting go, in terms of, that's about 6Ring. You see some opportunity for increasing of sensual desire. You 6R it. Indulging in some kind of food you had some time ago. You 6R it. You know that that's not letting go. That's indulging in it. So you 6R it. You relax. You just let go. Because you are giving a different kind of food for your mind to consume. And that food is healthy. You can digest it, and it gives you a fulfillment in this first jhana experience. And the bath powder example from this other sutta, the Majjhima Nikaya, Middle Length Discourses, 119, Kaya Gata Sati Sutta. These are the only similes that the Buddha gave to describe the first jhana, because they are very subtle states. And in those similes you see that the bodily experience is explained very well with the simile. He is saying something like, just as a skilled bathman or bathman's apprentice heaps bath powder in a metal basin. So metal basin is your body here. And sprinkling it gradually with water. I think we don't do we have bath powder? No, right? Those days it's very cool to have sandalwood powder taken from the sandalwood. Sandalwood, when it's a pulp, it's very cooling, and the smell is amazing. This is not talking about the smell, it's that coolness that you experience. Why? Because you are withdrawn from eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind. That you are not looking for external stimulus. You are internally content, satisfied, and your inner net provides you the answers, not the internet. So you are happy with that. You search there. So heaps bath powder in a metal basin, sprinkling it gradually with water, kneads it till the moisture wets his ball of bath powder, soaks it and pervades it inside and out. So the basin has these soap forms that yet itself does not ooze. It's not going beyond the metal basin. It stays contained within the metal basin. So your body is experiencing this coolness. That what it says is that so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the rapture and pleasure born of seclusion. This piece is important. Why? Because sometimes when people experience any jhana kind of happiness, they say, oh, I'm supposed to let go of this. The sutta is saying the opposite. Sutta is saying there's no part of his whole body unpervaded by the rapture and pleasure born of seclusion. You just need to allow it to be experienced, felt, drench it, steep it. That's the language the sutta uses. So, if anyone tells that these pleasant meditative feelings are to be abandoned, they have not read these suttas. You should open this sutta and tell them to read this part and send them to Dhamma Sukha. Because we go to the authentic original teachings and we teach from there. That's what Bhante did. He didn't want to sound like it was his idea that he was teaching. He abandoned the commentaries one time. He spoke about it. If you have listened to his teachings, you know that he was stuck with the ideas that the commentaries introduced to him. And he needed to let go of those commentaries. He spoke with other monks like Bhante Punnaji. His image is there. Another Sri Lankan monk who actually lived in our Toronto's place before he went to Malaysia. Yep, that's the place that he helped establish. He's a big person there. So I think Bhante got the word from friendships from that monk. See, friendship is so important. It's 100% the holy life. He told him to go to the suttas, read the suttas, because no one was really opening these books and reading them and practicing, of course. So Bhante saw how important the teaching of Brahma Vihara is. Because all the time people were going to just some practice that came from Burma or some breathing meditation only, something that they thought was right because monks were teaching it. But these monks were not reading the suttas carefully and putting that effort to put these dots together and highlight these missing pieces, especially say that these pieces are important. So you all are ready to listen to this teaching today. And you can go back to reading them also after the retreat. So you have these as the guidelines for you to practice. And if you like to teach to small groups, you are welcome to. You can do that. Because you are teaching Dhamma. When you teach, you learn more. When people ask questions, you have no idea, you somehow answer those questions. The answers come to you. But it helps to have these suttas in front of you. So that's the first jhana. The second jhana, so he goes on to when it was said, bhikkhus, I say that the destruction of the taints also occurs in dependence on the second jhana, the third jhana, fourth jhana. So it's just dots here. That's not good. We need the full sutta. We need to create a version that's really the whole details in it. So then I'll go to this Kayagata Sati Sutta. So again, bhikkhus, with the stilling of applied and sustained thought, a bhikkhu enters upon and abides in the second jhana, which has self-confidence and singleness of mind without applied and sustained thought, with rapture and pleasure born of samadhi, stillness. He makes the rapture and pleasure born of samadhi drench, steep. Everyone knows samadhi, right? Stillness of the mind. Dhi is mind, intelligence. Sama is this tranquility. Samadhi is this stillness. He makes the rapture and pleasure born of samadhi, stillness, drench, steep, fill, and pervade this body so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the rapture and pleasure born of stillness. Just as though, so this is the simile, just as though there were a lake whose waters welled up from below and it had no inflow from east. You see, the experience is arising from within. There is nothing coming from outside here. A lake whose waters welled up from below and it had no inflow from east, west, north or south, and would not be replenished from time to time by showers of rain. Then the cool fount of water welling up in the lake would make the cool water drench, steep, fill, and pervade the lake, so that there would be no part of the whole lake unpervaded by cool water. So too, a bhikkhu makes the rapture and pleasure born of samadhi, stillness, drench, steep, fill, and pervade this body, so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the rapture and pleasure born of samadhi, stillness. So that's the second jhana. You see, naturally, what happens is that without applied and sustained thought, and right before it said, with the stilling of applied and sustained thought, because you had to apply loving kindness to get here and abandon anger to get here. Now it's naturally there. So that need is now, you are stilling that. You are just seeing that naturally you have cultivated loving kindness. That's why we always tell you to keep that loving kindness going with the spiritual friend, with the 6 directions, with whatever way you can cultivate loving kindness. It's very, very, very important. And we also tell you to let go, not be attached to this and that, because that blocks your view from entering the jhanas. There are 4 jhanas, and I should say a jhana is a level of letting go, and Bhante used to say a level of understanding. So with letting go, of course, there is that understanding. And last year I said these are like 4 golden gates. Like when you play a game, you enter through these gates and there is something beautiful, something delicate inside that first one, and then you enter the second one, there's even more something delicate in there, and then you go further discovering more. It's like a lotus mind opening. Like inside one layer of petals, there is another beautiful layer which has more fragrance, more beauty, more delicate nature. So jhanas are like that. And when the wisdom light, the sunlight, lands on this lotus, it opens another layer which has more fragrance, more beauty. And that ultimately inside you find the sweetest nectar, nibbana, in it. And that outer petals of this lotus has dust, defilements, exposure to the weather conditions. It's just the nature of our mind also. On the surface, we have these problematic situations that we deal with, like hindrances, corruptions, bad thoughts, bad intentions. But you give your mind a break, and mind then naturally, there is stilling that happens. That when you get to the level of the second jhana, where you let go and come to that level of understanding, you are rewarded with this lake welling up from within, that kind of experience. And there is chittassa ekaggata, singleness of the mind, collectedness of the mind naturally. And you don't need to say, oh, that's a bad thought, that's a good thought, and I must cultivate the good thought, because naturally you have it built into the second jhana experience. In other words, you already put that effort in the first jhana, so you are radiating loving kindness inwardly and outwardly. You are letting go, and your cruelty is gone. You have compassion. Your heart is softened, and naturally you are there in a very, very peaceful state. So, can we say that in the second jhana that we don't have thoughts? We really don't have many thoughts in there. That wholesome intention is there, that thinking is not needed, thinking is not necessary. But you understand it with this body's experience. The body is there, but you are experiencing the body not as a resource of external stimuli and sensations. You are just allowing the body to experience this coolness by drenching it, steeping it, filling it, and pervading this body, so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the rapture and pleasure born of stillness. Earlier, it was the rapture and pleasure born of seclusion. So you are going further into stillness here. And I think some of you heard me say that this is like going to a lake, and you sit under this tree, and you are just allowing the beauty around it to be without controlling it. You allow the animals that are beautiful to come and enjoy the water. There are birds come near you, because you are not controlling that environment. You are just allowing things to be. So when the fruit is ripe, it will fall into your hand. You just take the controller away. Bhante used to say it in a different way. People say, yeah, but, and then the Bhante would say, get the but out of the way. So the third jhana. Again, bhikkhus, with the fading away as well of rapture, because the nature of that rapture, piti, joy, is that it's not permanent, it fades away. A bhikkhu abides in equanimity. See, in the third jhana, there is this equanimity. So, equanimity is a jhana factor. Equanimity is also an awakening factor, one of the 7 awakening factors. Equanimity is also a sublime state. So, these are cultivated depending on what you are cultivating. And you may ask, is it the same equanimity in all the places? Usually it's experienced as a very, very balanced state of mind, where there is not much activity happening. So in the third jhana, you will learn what noble silence means here. So I will read that part again. Again, bhikkhus, with the fading away as well of rapture, a bhikkhu abides in equanimity and mindful and fully aware. Sato sampajano, mindful and fully aware. Still feeling pleasure with the body. So with equanimity there is that pleasure. It's not completely gone, still feeling it. He enters upon and abides in the third jhana, on account of which noble ones announce, he has a pleasant abiding who has equanimity and is mindful. So noble ones announce. Noble ones are those ones who have experienced this, that thoughts are gone, thoughts are less in this person's mind, and that there is very pleasant abiding. That's why you need to practice them now, before you get into a situation where your bones are broken and there's pain all over the place, and you want to get to a jhana but you can't because pain is too strong. That's why the work should be done now, before you. I so wish that you never experience such a thing, but you never know. Sometimes before your body goes through aging, and that you can't remember anything sometimes. You know how it's like to be some 90, over 90 years old or 100 years old, and sometimes you can't do so much in those states. So noble ones announce, he has a pleasant abiding who has equanimity and is mindful. So equanimity and mindful, both you have now naturally cultivated them. So that mindfulness is the third jhana mindfulness. And you see what you do here. He makes the pleasure divested of rapture. So this pleasure comes from rapture. So now you see earlier, in the first jhana, the pleasure and rapture was born of seclusion. The second jhana, it was born of stillness. The third jhana, it's divested of rapture. No mention of, there is mention of pleasure. He makes the pleasure divested of rapture. They are together here. Drench, steep, fill and pervade this body, so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the pleasure divested of rapture. Just as in a pond of blue or white or red lotuses. Some lotuses that are born and grow in the water thrive immersed in the water without rising out of it, and cool water drenches, steeps, fills and pervades them to their tips and their roots, so that there is no part of all those lotuses unpervaded by cool water. So too a bhikkhu makes the pleasure divested of rapture drench, steep, fill and pervade this body, so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the rapture, by the pleasure divested of rapture. So that's that third jhana. This is not like Arctic cold coolness. It is coolness that is a coolness that you like. Your body had this burning time up until you experienced a cool state because of you unplugging, allowing the body to cool down and stopped taking everything personally. You stopped looking outside for pleasure. Now you are allowing the natural third jhana that was waiting for you to visit it to cool you off. And that is what you are experiencing here. You become like a lotus before it bloomed out of water. You are submerged in water, and the lotus there is experiencing coolness all over its all over its body. And that's what you will experience. Don't expect this. That can get you into hindrances because you become restless. And when you see the hindrances, you remember those 5 snakes I mentioned? Don't step on them. You siksar them, but you bring loving kindness to yourself, loving kindness to them. That way you know how to deal with it. That's why you are learning the techniques here. So the Buddha in other discourses has mentioned that when you see the danger of 5 hindrances, you just try to overcome them quickly. Then you enter the first jhana. And then, now that you are in the first jhana, the danger is that you may fall back to the hindrances. So you go to the second jhana. And the danger there is that you may fall to the first jhana. So you let go of that second jhana and go to the third jhana. The danger there is that you may fall into the second jhana. So likewise, you are gradually letting go. Jhanas are about some knowledges of some markers, road markers of how to let go. But you need to have full understanding before you can let go, understanding about them. So the fourth jhana, again bhikkhus, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, see now you do deliberately abandon the pleasure and pain because the third jhana can be addictive, that you want to stay there, that you look forward to that pleasure. And you see the wording was pleasure divested of rapture, and you did the work of drenching, steeping, filling and pervading this body. So you are there, and that the Buddha say abandon it. It's in that fourth jhana he used that word. Before that, you cultivate it more. Abandoning of pleasure and pain, and with the previous disappearance of joy and grief. What does that mean? So here you understood the true nature of joy and grief. Some of you might be dealing with grief, and you apply dependent origination, that grief is felt here in the heart, that it's dependently arisen, you become conscious of it, it's this external something that visited your mind now, and there is a contact, there is a painful feeling, and you dislike it, you see the nature of dukkha arising. And then there is pain, grief, despair, all of that arises. You see, no matter how many times you looked at joy or grief, they both have the same nature, that they are dependently arisen. Dependent on other conditions, they arise. And you can look at it 300 times, the same response 300 times, and then you get disenchanted. Nibbida arises, that you are like, okay, this is all I have to learn from this feeling, pleasant or unpleasant. They have the same true nature. The suffering arises, and there is also the cessation of suffering right then and there. If only you can see it, that you have developed that kind of knowledge, so you can see it right then and there. That's why the Buddha said, within this fathom-long body, he says, the arising of suffering and the cessation of suffering. It's right here. You don't go to some place in heaven to look for it, or some planet, or some monk, or some books. It's right here. It's only when you know how to apply this knowledge and utilize it for abandoning or cultivating, abandoning what is unwholesome and cultivating what is wholesome. So I'll read the fourth jhana fully, and until then I will not talk. Again, bhikkhus, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, and with the previous disappearance of joy and grief, a bhikkhu enters upon and abides in the fourth jhana, which has neither pain nor pleasure, and purity of mindfulness due to equanimity. He sits, pervading this body with a pure, bright mind, so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the pure, bright mind. Just as though a man were sitting covered from head down with a white cloth, so that there would be no part of his whole body not covered by the white cloth, so too a bhikkhu sits pervading this body with a pure, bright mind, so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the pure, bright mind. As he abides thus diligent, ardent, and resolute, his memories and intentions based on the household life are abandoned. With their abandoning, his mind becomes steadied internally, quieted, brought to singleness, and stilled. That's the fourth jhana. So white cloth. You are covered by a pure white cloth. That is to actually say that there is sits pervading this body with a pure, bright mind. Mind itself envelopes your body, so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the pure, bright mind. At that level, you don't have to fear the body. The body is there, very stilled. And sometimes you will experience some kind of fear arising, because you never experienced this kind of thing before. And you think deep down that you don't deserve that kind of pleasure. So give yourself permission, program your mind that if that fear arises, you will let go. And that you will stay there. And the knowledge of fear that it's dependently arisen, and there is nothing to fear here. You are alive. You will not die. You are just giving pleasure naturally available to you. You see, sometimes some scholars have this misunderstanding about Buddha's teachings, that he taught about suffering and only about suffering, negative stuff. But here he's telling us about pleasures, happiness. Happiness, and the highest happiness one can acquire, reach. That's what he was talking about. He needed to use that language, how suffering arises, and give us a way out and experience rapture, pleasure, stillness, letting go, relinquishment, cooling down, unconditioned. And that, he said, is Nibbanang Paramang Sukhang. Nibbana is the highest happiness. So he said that, having said arogya paramalabha, of all gains, good health is the highest you can have. You can have so many things, but if you don't have good health, those things don't matter. So good health. He told that to this king who was addicted to eating too much rice, King Kusala. 16 pots of rice. And he came to see the Buddha and he was dozing off because he couldn't concentrate on what the Buddha was teaching. And he felt embarrassed, so he asked, can you help me? I have this habit of eating too much rice. And the Buddha said, next time when you eat, you tell your Purohita, some advisor, to give you 15, not 16. So gradually cut it down to 1. And then the king became thinner and more healthier. There was a Gatha, one of the verses that Purohita, the advisor, had to recite in front of the king every time he ate. He said, Manujassa sada sati mato. To a Manuja means a human being. Sada means forever. Sati mato, forever mindful. Someone who is ever mindful. Mattang janato laddha bhojane. Knowing the quantity of the food that he received. Tanutassa bhavanti vedana. His discomfort will be less and less. Sanikang jirati. The food will digest slowly. Ayu palana. He will have longevity, that he will have increasing of his lifespan because he eats just enough and it digests slowly. You must have, become aware of your body, that when the body knows that there is more food coming, it's struggling to digest the food it already has. It might signal you to go to the bathroom, but you have not even eaten this food. It's only mental message that there is more food coming. That's how the body deals with the mind. So he said, Arogya Paramalabha. At the end of the king recovering from this addiction, he taught Arogya Paramalabha. Of all gains, good health is the highest you can have, highest gain you can have. Santutti Paramandanam. So that first one was about physical health. This one is about Santutti, happiness of the mind. This is the mental health. Is the highest wealth one can have. The first one is a gain, Paramalabha, but when it comes to wealth, it should be the mental happiness. That is the highest wealth. You can have millions of dollars, but if you are not happy in your mind, what's the point? He's asking. Vissasa paramanyati. You can have many friends, but if you don't have a trustworthy one, you cannot call them. You can have many relatives actually. If you don't trust anyone, you cannot call them a relative. So the relatives depend on trust. So he said that relationships depend on trust. When you break the trust, then you can't trust a relative. And then ultimately he said, Nibbanam Paraman Sukhang. Highest happiness is Nibbana. So, So the Buddha was teaching us about happiness and highest happiness. So that's that. And I think tomorrow we can learn about the other states. Or do you want me to go over the arupas today?
I think we can cut it into 2.
Yeah, let's do it tomorrow.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. Stay in the 4th jhana.
Yeah, 4th is okay for today.
Yeah. questions? Yeah.
When you mentioned seclusion in the first jhana, is that like the relationship I have with myself, or does that mean physically secluding myself?
It's like coming to Dhamma Sukha, that 2 hours drive, and also later seclusion from eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind. That means you just close your eyes, bye-bye to forms, like you say. I'm not here to watch TV or TikTok or anything. I'm here to just be secluded from those things. Because doing those didn't bring you here to the 4th jhana. Doing Instagram constantly or content creation, watching endless TV didn't bring you to this kind of level. So you are being secluded from those external sensual pleasures that you thought was giving this, but no. Now that you see, that's not how you get to this. By letting go of those, you get to this. So that's a real seclusion. Like you can be in the noisiest place, but when you are withdrawn from getting irritated from every single thing you hear, whatever everybody says, you are in a seclusion, you are in a jhanic mind. It doesn't bother you. Because you see that it's just an empty boat, or it's just I don't have to multiply whatever I hear in my head. What I mean by that is that children sometimes play and then they call their friend, they want to hurt their friend and they say, "You are a donkey." And then the child gets hurt and they go home thinking about it. And that friend only said that one time. But in your mind, you play it 100 times. It's as if you are telling yourself that you are a donkey 100 times. If only you knew how to let go, right then and there. In the scene or in the herd, there is only the herd. You drop it there, you are free. That's the skill that we try to develop. It's not like you walk like a dead person. You see the true nature of this person's saying, that they are hurt, their intention is to hurt you, but you are not affected by it. One time this Brahmin was so angry with the Buddha, and he used abusive language, verbal daggers, and he scolded the Buddha with bad words, and he expected a reaction from the Buddha. Buddha did not react, and that was enough for this Brahmin to calm down and engage in a real conversation and stop scolding, because that's not a real conversation. And so he was curious, like, did it not bother you that I said all those things? The Buddha said, no. How? And the Buddha said, it's like this. You cook a good meal and invite somebody to your house, and that person refused to eat. So that food is yours or his? And the man said, it's my food, because he didn't eat it. So whatever you try to throw at me is yours. It's a gift that you tried to give me, but I don't want it. So the gift belongs to you. You keep it. So that's how he responded. These things come to your mind when you deal with, it's like you read, he abused me, and that gatha. What's it? Beat me, he robbed me. He abused me, he beat me, he defeated me, he robbed me. In those who harbor such thoughts, hatred is not appeased. So, practically seen this. That's why we, Dhamma way of life There is one saying that says, Dhammo havi rakhati dhammachari. Dhammachari is someone who, the dog took a sleeper. Somebody's sleeper.
I thought that was a Dhammacharya.
No. So Dhammachari is someone who is living according to Dhamma. It's someone who actually practices these words of wisdom. And Have means indeed, Rakhati, they are protected by Dhamma. That means because you see this, and you are naturally protected by that layer of Dhamma. It's not that an angel comes and protects you. It's you yourself, your understanding, your wisdom help and protect you. Because you have a greater wisdom that an ordinary person does not have. So when grief, pain, despair, when they arise, you know they are painful. Nobody has to tell you that, but you also understand their true nature. They arise dependent on conditions, and they disappear when these conditions disappear. Deeper the attachment, deeper the suffering is. You use that kind of language. And grief is love that has no address to go. Or grief is the measure of your love to someone. They are gone. You can't express your love to them. So you understand it. It's like this queen, she was serving lunch to monks, and one of the servants dropped a bit of ghee, and she told the servant to pick that and put it into a container, and the monks did not understand it. They thought she was stingy, that she collected that ghee. So the monks gave a talk about letting go. Dhamma talk about letting go. And at the end of it, she said, when I was serving the meal, I got this messenger came and gave me this message. In it, it said that all 34 of my children died in war, but I was not affected. I still continued serving you the meal, because that's the Dhamma that I have learned from the Buddha. It's not that ghee was important to me, it's just that I was teaching a lesson to them about using resources carefully. That's it. That was my intention, not to waste things. So Dhamma is like that. Every opportunity, every moment where you get a shocking news. In Mangala Sutta, Buddha says, Puttassa loka dhammihi, when you are touched with worldly conditions. There are 8 worldly conditions: losses, gains, fame and defame, insults and praise, happiness and suffering. These are 8 worldly conditions, good things and bad things. When you are touched by them, chittang yassa na kampati, his heart is not shaken. That's a blessing, he said. Etam mangalam uttamam. That's one of the greatest blessings, that you see the true nature of this experience, that you heard it and it entered your heart, and it can go this way or that way, but you have mindful presence to process it and hold it in a place of wisdom, and you are no longer affected. You used to be affected by it, not anymore. When you see that true personality change, when you see that wisdom, when you apply it, then and there, you see the cessation of suffering. There is no sufferer. So how can you suffer? You see the experience arising and the cessation of it. That's how Dhamma protects us. The truth protects us. Okay. Questions? David.
I just had a little comment. Maybe you can figure this one out. It says you secluded from joy and grief. Now, I wonder if that joy should be really secluded from delight and grief. Because joy sounds like an enlightenment factor to me.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to be secluded from that. What is the Pali?
Piti.
So it's joy then.
It is joy. Let me. Piti acha vira. Okay. Soka. No. Somanassa. It's not piti. Somanassa is delight. Yeah. So you're right. Yeah. Somanassa is the mental delight. Mana is the.
Because you're secluded from I like it and I don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah. So domanassa is exactly. Domanassa is I don't like it. Dummanassa. Mana is the mind. Du means bad mind, like you don't like it mind. Somanassa is happy mind. So you just I like it mind and I don't. Bhante's words are very precise. So that's craving. I like it or I don't like it mind is craving, he said. So you see, cessation of craving, it starts to happen there. Yeah, so pubbeva somanassa domanassanang attangama. Attangama is eradicating somanassa and domanassa. I like it mind and I don't like it mind. Pubbeva, previously. Yeah. Good observation. Piti is something that you can cultivate and that's wholesome.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that the third jhana you let go of piti.
Yeah.
But that's not the same as grief. Certainly
No.
must have
No.
let go of grief.
I think you got this far because earlier you abandoned it. If you are grieving about something, you are not getting this far. You are not anywhere. Yeah. Some people get attached to their grief or their suffering. That's because psychologically they want to be in a depressive state. That they think that the more they get hurt, better they would feel, and that by that, if the person that they are attached to is alive, they want that person to see that you are suffering. This is a deluded state of mind. Loving is also the same, like teenagers loving somebody, and when that somebody does not reciprocate that love, they either go into a depression state or they go to hurt that person. That's not love. You cannot hurt that person if you truly loved that person. How can you do that? That's selfishness. If they are happy with somebody else, you should still be in peace with your mind. When you are in peace with your mind, you are loving yourself. That's when you can truly love someone. Otherwise, you are bringing past woundedness to this present relationship and you are going to get hurt, or that other person is going to get hurt because of your imperfections or lack of healing. It's like saying, if you have not healed from your past wounds, you will bleed on people who didn't cut you. That's a very powerful thing. I guess if you want your shoes to be safe, we should end the Dhamma talk now. I saw a shoe being taken. I saw one shoe that looked green. You abandon grief, sorrow and shoes. Sorry, Sam.
So the fourth jhana, the white sheep, the white light
Yeah.
mind,
Yeah.
I feel like I can go there, but I'm a little bit scared that I will lose my relationships with family, people I care about. Like I will go to another place where I don't have preferences, including like choosing the people I'm associating with, I guess. I'm curious if you have any guidance as far as how to navigate that fear.
you will get to a better place where you know how to deal with their lives. That you become a better version of yourself. Because your intention is not complete renunciation and reaching monastic life, you may, and attaining arahanthood, you may, but not now. These things can happen, but in the fourth jhana, whether you are a lay person or a monk, these are blessings that one can experience when they are alive. And I have heard, I haven't seen this in the suttas, that when you have experienced them, that you have a different perspective of life, that you deal with worldly life situations with a different take on it, and that whenever you have to experience death, because this was the highest experience your mind had, this will be revealed to you, and that you will have a corresponding plane of existence, happier existence, that is manifested for you, for your mind, because that's the highest happiness that your mind experienced, and that way you are safe here and you are safe hereafter. So it's not about them, it's about us. And that experiencing fourth jhana, I mentioned to some people that you will be like that tadpole becoming a frog, and for the first time the frog now has legs and can experience the ground. Until then it only experienced water, and it only knew water. So now with this difference you start to experience the ground and the beauty of it, and stability, and that if you thought that only water existed, that's not true. If we thought that only the worldly pleasures existed, you now see that it's not true. So you give yourself permission to experience these pleasures, highest pleasures. And these are not permanent states, that they don't stay forever. You enter jhana, you can experience mastery over jhanas, and go visit your past lives, one life, 2 lives, like that, and then do more, like cultivate psychic abilities and so on, if you have the potential to and the interest to cultivate them. But they are not permanent states, that they fade away, and then you are an ordinary person. You have touched that experience, and you know what it is like to be in it, and you may or may not bring it back. You never know. It depends on what you do in your life. So there is nothing to fear. You will have a better relationship with the world, with jhanas experienced. That in the case of the Buddha to be, Siddhartha Gautama, he was a prince and he experienced jhanic level meditations. That's what he recalled when he did the self-mortification practice. He thought, as a child I experienced jhanas and there's nothing wrong with them. And he was still able to get married and have a child, and that he lived from age 16 until 29 as a married person, living the pleasures of a prince, although his mind was telling otherwise, like this is not why you were born, you should renounce and experience and fulfill your purpose. So from 29 to 35 he was seeking that other escape, because he was given anything that he needed by his father. His father spoiled him so much that his father didn't want any elderly person in the town. The father didn't want any dead bodies be seen by the son, and no sick person should be around, because his father had heard this prediction that if his son saw any of these signs, even a monk, that his son would renounce. But his father's goal, the father was obsessed by the idea of his son becoming a universal monarch. So the father gave him that kind of education, that kind of training, archery, skills, and all that. But the son had other plans, other intentions. We can go on talk about. So he still had this lay life, and his father and him as a prince, he could have all the pleasures he wanted. Had 3 palaces built for him. One for the winter, one for the summer, one for the autumn. So don't worry. Sheila.
You mentioned that these jhanas are like levels of understanding, and at each point you kind of learn something, and then you kind of get to the next one.
Yeah.
Is it possible to lose understanding?
No. Once you understand something, that's the power of understanding. That you've understood that it's like arahanthood. Once you have that realization, it's there. And it's like understanding how to come to Dhamma Sukha. It's there. It doesn't disappear. Jhanas disappear, but what you understood from that experience does not disappear. Jhanas don't disappear, they fade away, because these are kind of conditioned in a way. When conditions disappear, they disappear. Okay.
I don't know if you can answer this. I just wanted to know your thoughts on it. When I was reading the book, so I may be wrong on this, but that there are apparently over 100 mentions of the Brahma Viharas. Is that right? And only, is it 8?
4 Brahma Viharas.
That there are so many mentions of it, and yet I wonder why. Then why didn't? I wonder what was missed. Why wasn't it focused upon?
By the Buddhist practitioners?
Yeah, if it was right there.
They do it.
How did it happen?
They do it. They do. See, this is what has happened, that the commentaries came, and commentaries introduced different kinds of methods to meditate, and people went after them because they looked fascinating. And then they were lost, because monks and lay people both were not really looking into the discourses directly. And another reason is that there were droughts, famines, there were wars happening. So monks were threatened to leave their monastic life, because kings and invaders needed to take over the monasteries and the wealth that the monasteries had. So there was turmoil, political turmoil. They were not practicing. And there were some who practiced it, some who went directly into the suttas. But others were taking, I'll do 10 minutes of loving kindness meditation to get to the breathing meditation. Breathing meditation became popular. So, because it's being taught everywhere. And then another movement, Vipassana movement, came, which spoke about feelings. Some of you have done many Vipassana retreats, and I think it also spoke about other things, but people only take one aspect of it. And when it's lacking the whole knowledge of these things, people miss the message, so they don't practice Brahma Viharas necessarily. But you see how important it is to let go of anger by cultivating loving kindness. That's the only way. See, hatred is never appeased by hatred. Hatred is only appeased by loving kindness, love. So, simple as that. But someone has to put their mind into it and put the dots together and get the full spectrum of the practice. Then only, and then someone has to sincerely commit to that practice and see the results of it. Personality change, sense of humor changing, and life-altering understanding. So then only others get inspired. So when Bhante went to Sri Lanka to teach, he became instantly known as the Metta monk. And people needed water bottles, hundreds of water bottles, blessed by his hands. He only needed to hold them because he was the Metta monk who had energy of Metta. He had it really. So I had to deal with water bottles there. So many people came for water bottles.
I saw him do a whole pallet.
Yeah. It was easier for him. Yeah. Yeah.
Does the breathing become more important in like the fourth jhana when you abandon the two sides of things?
No. The breathing may come to a. It will be happening. The body will be breathing, but very, very, very subtle. That you don't have to even know that the body is breathing. That there's really little energy body needs. The body needs to sustain its energy. Because of our life continuum, the warmth of the body and the stillness of the mind, with little energy, body remains in that state. So breathing does not completely stop, the body will continue. It might stop in the place of experiencing a cessation, but you don't die, you emerge from it. That's the miracle of that cessation experience, that when you understand it, you know that it is perceptions and feelings and formations that are no longer there, then consciousness has no footing. So consciousness ceases. It stops manifesting temporarily. And you read Majjhima Nikaya 43 and 44 to see what comes first after this experience, that you are not even thinking. Only after emerging from it, you know where you were in terms of the meditation experience. So that's why that fear is a natural response, but after a couple of times you program your mind to tell that when that fear rises, let me go past that fear, because the freedom that my body and mind seek is on the other side of that fear. So I mentioned that acronym of fear, forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. So you choose. FEAR. Forget everything and run. I do the other one. Face everything and rise. In all challenging situations. Only when you face it, you learn from it. And your body and mind learns from it. So Jhanas, same thing. Fear is taught to us like those skittish dogs. She'll happen to experience that firsthand. You could not go near them, but everybody's loving kindness and David's work change them. You can go near them, and one allows you to touch them now, touch this dog now. It wasn't like, so that's how the environment changes when you practice loving kindness. That's a very good example of it. You see, so many dogs are abused in Asia, and I feel terrible about that. Because people have not developed that mindset. So animals go through that suffering. Anyway, I think we are talking too much now. We should end it here, and happy meditation. Let's share merits. Did your hand go up? Okay. Ask that tomorrow. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, Devas and Nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.